finally begin. It's been a whole week since we've seen each other, and I don't know about you, but it's been a long week for me. So I thought I'd remind you of what we've been doing. We saw last time that there's two components, two streams of information that go into characterizing what it is that you and I know when we know a word. On the one hand, we know something about, well, what it sounds like. And in particular, we've learned for any given word, that it is a particular sequence of phones. A kind of melody, if you like. We've learned that for each word. So for instance, that string of phones represents a word that means something or other. Okay. That's one piece of information. On the other hand, we also know something that's independent of the particular word, but is dependent on the language that word is in. We know something general about, well, the English language concerning how these words should be pronounced. So, for instance, we know, and this is what we learned last week, how this sequence of phones is phrased, how it's grouped, where a pause should be. We learn something about how phones are assigned positions and syllables, and that has something to do with English, not anything to do with any particular word. So there are rules that tell us how this should be broken up, and those rules tell us that this word is pronounced secret, not secret, or any other groupings. Okay? Two independent pieces of information that go into together tell you how to say this word secret. Today we're going to learn that this second component, this set of rules that sit in your head and tell you how, for all of the words you've learned, they should be pronounced, we're going to learn that sometimes those rules do more than just group the phones that are in a word. They actually change those phones. And this is very confusing. So let me give you a little illustration. So for instance, we have this word. Here's how I pronounce it. Continue. This little mark here marks stress. So if we think about the three syllables that make up this word, continue, the second one has the most energy. It's the loudest of the three. Continue. Okay? All right? There's another word which, in some sense or another, has this word inside it. But it has more material, and as a consequence of that more material, the stress is going to fall somewhere else. It's continuity. Continuity. Okay? I think you can see that there's some sense in which continuity is related to continue. Can you see that? But there's a couple of ways in which continue and continuity differ. One is the vowel in this first syllable is different. Continue versus continuity. In this second word, the first syllable has stress. Listen to them. Continue. The first syllable is unstressed in the first word. Continuity. In the second word, the first syllable has a little bit more volume to it. That difference, as it turns out, influences which vowel actually is pronounced here. Crap. More than that, though, and this is what I want to direct your attention to, in continue, this last syllable has ya in it. And in continuity, this syllable does not have ya in it. Can you hear that difference? Continue, continuity, new. Can you hear the difference? In continuity, this syllable is stressed. In continue, this syllable is unstressed. It turns out that in my English, syllables that have U as their nucleus and have ya in their onset lose the ya when they're stressed. I have like a little rule that says if you ever say a syllable with U in it and the onset has ya, listen, guy, just skip the ya. Okay? Madam.
How do you say the word few?
How do I say the word few?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Few. Few. I don't always do it. Ah! Don't ever speak again. I don't always do it. And I want you to discover when. Oh, look at that foot. I want you to discover when. So I'm giving you here in the homework assignment that's posted on today's website, a set of words, in my way of speaking. These words all have stressed syllables with U in them. And I'm giving you a set of words spoken by a friend of mine who's just a total snob. He also happens to be British. And he does not have this rule that deletes ya. Okay? These words show you where I delete the ya and where he doesn't. Okay? So like for instance, he says pure, the bastard, and I say pure. Okay? We both have ya there. I don't delete it, he doesn't delete it. But here, I delete it. I don't say, like he does, tune. What a charming tune. No. Tune. Okay? So, I ask you, find out where my rule is. Sometimes I delete it, sometimes I don't. You can see where where my rule is applying by comparing me to my bastard friend. Okay? All right? So, ya is always deleted before U in stressed syllables. These are all stressed syllables. What matters is the sound that comes before. Okay? So I want you to tell me, I want you first just to list what those sounds are. Right? And then I want you to say what Clint did a moment ago. I want you to tell me what are... I'm not going to let you. What is it about those sounds where I delete ya that makes them similar and different from the sounds where I don't delete ya? So here you're going to have to go and remember, so how does one make the sound duh? How does one make the sound fa? How does one make the, sorry about the spit, the sound ba? Okay? All right? Question 1 on the assignment today. There are 2 parts to the answer. The list of sounds where ya is deleted, and then what is it that makes those sounds different from the sounds where ya isn't deleted? Is it clear? Yes?
On the ones where you do delete the ya, the stop and soda.
Oh, well, you're making a guess now, is that right? Actually, where I delete the ya depends on the kind of sound that comes right before the ya. Okay? So that's what you should look for. What is it about the sounds like ta, where ya is deleted, that make it different from ka, where ya isn't deleted? Okay? This is the first of 4 questions in this homework assignment. Here's the second question. This is a question to rehearse your knowledge of the syllable rule. So I give you a bunch of words, I've transcribed them so you know what they sound like. They're all made-up words. You won't find any in the English dictionary. Okay? Only one of these words, though, could actually be an English word. All the others are unsyllabifiable. There's no way of assigning the sounds in those words to positions and syllables that don't manage to violate a phonotactic constraint. Okay? So what I want you to do here is go through these 4 words, figure out for all of the ones that are bad, why are they bad? Which sounds couldn't be onsets or codas? Okay? And tell me about that. Is it clear what I want here? So you should tell me which one is possible, and then for the 3 that are impossible, I want you to tell me what it is about those 3 that makes them impossible words. What particular set of consonants cannot be onsets or codas? The third question, I give you a set of sounds. All of these lists are from English. And what I want you to do is find what feature or property in the articulation of these sounds makes them similar. And then tell me what that is. So for instance, if I had given you this list, oops, see this list here? Pa, ba, ta, da, ka, ga, ma, na, na, What is it that makes those all similar? These are all the stops of English. So that would be the answer. Okay? So find something for each of these lists that they all share and no other sound in English does share, and tell me what that property is. Okay? So for each of these 5 questions, you should give as an answer some, it was pronounced here, or it's a lax vowel, or it's something like that. Okay? Is it clear what I'm asking for here? Right? And the 4th question you can't answer yet. So I won't show it to you. You'll be able to answer after today's lecture. Are there any questions about this? So this homework assignment is due a week from today, next Friday. If you want to hand it in on Wednesday, that would be great. That would give the TAs enough time to grade it and get it back to you in the discussion section that follows. But you have a week, so it's due not until Friday next week. You're welcome. You get an A. Where were you? Oh, yeah. Good. Take a note, will you? All right. All right, well, I said I would warm you up every class with a little transcription exercise. So the IPA, finally becomes second nature to you. So let's start with this. Who is brave? You are now, because you're getting an A. Can you read this for me? Of course, if you make a mistake, it'll go straight to F. Yeah, you understand. Yeah.
There is little point in waiting all morning for someone to make juice.
What's this? Juice, yeah. What's this sound?
Oh yeah, use of add.
What's this vowel? D, so far a D, but keep going. What's this word? Ooh, yes!
That's close, like the other day. If school has closed.
Next time school closed, could someone please call me? So sad. So lonely. Yeah. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, good. All right, good. And now this. Let's go from this to the IPA. So I'll pronounce this. That little trattoria up the plaza makes tasty steaks and creamy sponge cakes. Wasn't like I didn't do nothing in my office hours. How should this be transcribed?
Do you want me to do the whole thing? I can.
Can you what?
I'll do the whole thing if you want.
How about if you just do the first two words?
Okay. The D with the line through it.
The D with the line through it.
The AE combination.
The AE combination.
T.
And T.
L.
L.
Capital I.
Capital I.
T.
T.
And then L with one little line.
L with a whoops line. I think it's a da there.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Trattoria. Yes.
Sorry, can you say it one more time?
I sure can, I think. Trattoria.
All right, the T and the sh combined make ch,
Mm-hmm.
and then the upside down R, and the AE stuck together, and then the T, and then the schwa, and then the R, and then the IJ, and then the schwa.
Is that what you did?
I have a schwa.
Here? Yeah, trattoria. I think you're right. My TAs would have taken off a point here, and they would have been right. I think you're right. Trattoria, it's a schwa, not trattoria. Trattoria. Yeah, probably not. Up? Who wants to do up? Let's take a shy person. Sir, you look shy to me. You. Can you do up, please?
Okay.
A U and a P, just like what I have here. What's the sound that U transcribes? U transcribes oo. So what we want is something else. This is a candidate. And up starts with a glottal stop. Don't forget your Okay. So this thing or a schwa maybe. The plaza. But I don't say plaza. I say plaza. Plaza. Any plaza. Madam.
P,
Yeah?
A,
Z. Schwa. That's what I would do. Plaza. Yeah, plaza would have a different vowel here. Mm-hmm.
Would that be like the backwards C?
It would be a backward C, or it might be that A that looks like this, not a typewritten A. Makes. Sir.
M,
Yeah.
the E, capital I, diphthong,
Yeah.
A,
Yeah.
S.
Excellent. Tasty. Yes, tasty. Who wants to do? Sir with the glasses and the the gingham, I guess it's called, shirt with the little buttons. Tasty. Yeah. Yeah.
S,
Yeah. 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 Excellent. Oops. Don't ever listen to me. If you'd listen to me, it would be tasty. Okay. I'm not very good at this, I guess. So that's the vowel, yeah. A, tasty. Steaks. Sorry about that. Can we just erase that part of the film? You think we can do that? Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Steaks. And creamy. Creamy, creamy. Sir, with the... Do you have a beard, sir? I think you might. Let me see. Yeah, I got to get pretty close, but it's there. Creamy. Yeah. 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 That's it. Excellent. Creamy. Sponge. 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 In the cap. In the back.
S,
Yeah.
P,
Yeah. Yeah.
upside down V,
Yes.
N, and the
I would do ja, which is the da, ja thing. Sponge. Good job. Sponge. And finally, cakes. Good job. Yes?
I have a question though. For words like sponge or like more, could you do like a schwa at the end? Sometimes when you're speaking, it comes out like that.
You want to put a schwa here?
Yeah.
Okay. That would be, so suppose I said this. I would say, and creamy sponge cakes. That's certainly possible.
No, that would be an upside down V, like in cut, sponge out.
Well,
No, I'm saying
it would be something like sponge cakes. There would be a little between the ja and the ka. You don't believe me still. I can see that on your face. Sorry, what? Oh, you're hearing something release. Oh, I see. So maybe it's something like, yeah, I mean, okay. Sponge cakes. Like that. Yeah. Is that what you have in mind? Okay. I don't know. I mean, if there's really a vowel here, it would be odd. It would be like the sponge cakes. But there might be a little expiration after ja that's releasing that sound. You know, ja, ja. Might be something there. I don't think you should put a vowel here, though, that we'll think you're making fun of Italian Americans. That's what we'll do. Okay. Ma'am. So what about this, she's asking. There is another symbol I showed you, which we encountered looking at Japanese, which I called a flap. You'll see it on your IPA chart. It's like a little R without a hat. That's probably the right symbol here. Yeah, this could be a flap. Little, yeah. Ma'am. For trattoria, how come this symbol? So listen to me say this word. I'll say it differently. The first time I'll say it with a lowercase t, and the second time I'll use this affricate, okay? Trattoria, 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 or trattoria. Is that what I have up there? Whatever. And then the other one. You actually see what I'm saying. Yeah. Trattoria versus trattoria. Okay? Cha versus ta. Hard to hear. Okay? Good. This is an excellent, very good job, but it's wrong. It's wrong because sometimes some of these sounds that we have transcribed with the same symbol are actually different. It's a difference you are not aware of, but I can teach it to you. Okay? So, say tasty. Okay, very good. And now say tasty and at the same time touch the tip of your nose. Tasty. Great. Okay, good. And now, I'm just doing this because it's all on film, you realize. And now do the same thing and say steaks. Steaks. All right. Now, when you say steaks, Steaks. Pay attention. There's a ever so slight puff of air after sta that hits your hand. Steaks. Can you feel it? Okay. And now say tasty and try and get that puff of air. Feel that puff of air. Could you just poke him and then have her? You just poke her. Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. Tasty. 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 Do you feel the puff of air then? There's a puff of air after tasty that's a little bit bigger than the puff of air after steaks. Let me show you. Tasty. Tasty. And now steaks. Can you see the difference? Tasty. Steaks. Do you see that? Oh, yeah. So sorry. Tasty. Steaks. Do you see the difference? Yeah. Tasty. Steaks. Okay. Thank you. All right. That little puff of air is called aspiration, and our ears are very sensitively attuned to it. If I didn't say tasty with aspiration in that first ta, you would hear something that didn't sound quite right. I would say something like tasty. Yeah? I don't sound like I'm an English speaker. I sound like, well, like a French speaker. Tasty. Yeah? We have this sound and this sound are different sounds. One is aspirated, the other isn't. The aspiration is indicated with a little raised H. Okay. What, groans? Ladies and gentlemen, this is nothing. Wait to groan. But that's not all that's wrong with this. No. This ka, they differ from that ka. Those two kas also, by God, have aspiration. Creamy, cakes. Do it yourself. Cakes. Do you feel a puff of air after the first ka that's not there after the second? Cakes. Do you feel that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's not all, ladies and gentlemen. This pa is aspirated too. Yes. So say up and plaza. Plaza is aspirated, but the pa in up is not. Nor is the pa in sponge. So sponge, plaza. Can you? Yes, ma'am.
It seems like anytime you have that instead of like a K, it's just a K with aspirated.
What do you? What?
Can you like cool or calm? It's always an aspirated.
Yeah. When you write it with a C, you mean? Yeah. I see. So, that's interesting. I never thought of. But wait, what about scram? Is that spelled with a C? Scram. 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 So not always, but interesting. What about kicks? Kicks. It's there, and that's with a K, isn't it? That's a good idea, though. It was a good idea. Went all the way to good idea. It was just wrong. Yeah. I never thought about that. Yeah. Some of these sounds are aspirated, others aren't. Now, you see, you wouldn't know that some of these sounds are aspirated and others aren't, because one of the things about being an English speaker is these sounds are, as far as your knowledge of these words go, exactly the same sound. Pa, tan, ka, they're all voiceless stops. these words have voiceless stops in them. But sometimes you say those voiceless stops with aspiration. Yeah. You know that if you want to sound like an English speaker and not like a French speaker, you should say tasty and not tasty. Okay? That's part of what you know about sounding English and not being mistaken for a Frenchman or woman. Sir?
I have a question about the T in trattoria.
Yeah.
Depending on how you pronounce it, would that possible?
So if you're someone who doesn't say what I say in trattoria and says ta, I think it'll be aspirated. But I don't do it, so I can't tell you firsthand. I'd have to find a trattoria speaker and then get close enough to their face while they say it. And I've been told to not do that anymore in the class. So I think it would be aspirated. Okay? The fact that you know that to speak English means to sometimes aspirate these consonants means that there's a rule, just like the syllabification rule around, that tells you, oh, sometimes ta comes out as aspirated ta, sometimes pa will come out as aspirated pa, sometimes ka will come out as aspirated ka. And that means that if you look at enough English words, you'll find a pattern. You'll find the places where these stops become aspirated. What's the pattern? Tick, stick, Twitter, butt wipe. So, which tas are getting aspirated? Yeah, so they're the ones that begin syllables, aren't they? The beginnings of words in these one-syllable cases. Yeah. How about here? Pick, spit, play, upload. These two get aspirated. That one and that one don't. This, upload, is ending the first syllable. It's the coda of the first syllable. Play begins the onset. Spit, it's the second thing in the onset. It isn't starting the syllable. Let's look at these. Kick. First one aspirated, second one not. Skip. Clear. First one aspirated. Tickler. Aspirated. Do you see the pattern? Ma'am?
Is it stopped at the beginning of the word?
It's not beginning of the word. The stop's at the beginning of a syllable. Mm-hmm. Sir?
I have a question about upload.
Okay.
For the syllabification,
Mm-hmm.
you want to put the pla at the start of the onset?
Yeah. So the question is about how to syllabify upload. And as it happens, it's right here, upload. But if you were to follow my rules, the rules I gave you, they would do something that's wrong here. They would syllabify it here. So you'd get upload. Upload. You know why that is? It's because my rules are crap. My rules are wrong because there are details that I've not taught you about. And one of those is when a word like this one is made from two words. Upload is made from up and load. The syllable is going to find that juncture between the two words. Okay? So there's, like many of the things I'll teach you, they're not completely right because I'm a pathological liar. Okay? Who said yeah? D. Mark that down. I said D. Yes, sir.
Can aspirations be at the end of words like skip?
Can they be at the end of words, aspiration?
They have to be onset.
They have to be onsets. So skip? No. Skip? No, not really. Skip? No. Skip. Unaspirated. Okay? So, now let's think about what's in your English-speaking head. What's in there? There's some rule that tells you, for these guys, aspirate some of them. And maybe that rule looks like this. If a word has ta in it, add the aspiration when it's at the beginning of an onset. Or and then in addition, maybe you've got a rule that says, well, some of the pas in words, don't say them as pa, say them as pa with aspiration, those at the beginning of onsets. And then finally, maybe sitting in your head is this last rule for ka. It says, okay, when you have a ka in a word, if that ka is at the beginning of an onset, aspirate it there. That would account for this pattern. This is all like subconscious, so it also accounts for why you don't really know that there are these aspirated stops. It's just, that's the way you say these words. This isn't quite right, though, because, what this says is that in your head there are 3 different rules. One for pa, one for ta, one for ka. But really, it isn't 3 different rules. Look, they do the same thing, these rules, and they all do it at the same place. This really is just one rule, right? What this rule does is it says, take any voiceless stop. That's what these guys are, and no other sound in English is, except for the glottal stop, which we will ignore today. Take any voiceless stop, and if that voiceless stop is at the beginning of an onset, say it with some aspiration. Okay. One rule. It just affects a whole class of sounds, because what it's doing is it's looking not at the sounds themselves, but at what you are doing to make these sounds. It's looking for a gesture in your face that's making a stop and isn't voicing. Anytime you do that, make a stop and not voice, add aspiration when you're at the beginning of an onset. Okay? That's the rule. You got it. Mr. Francois, he don't. That's why he says des di. Okay. Okay. So a couple facts about this setup. The first is, this means that if you look at all of those words that have voiceless stops in them, you're going to find that there will be no voiceless stop, no pa, ta, or ka, that it's at the beginning of an onset that isn't aspirated. Every voiceless stop at the beginning of an onset is going to be aspirated by that rule. And, contrary-wise, whatever that means, if you look at all the other voiceless stops, the ones that are at the ends of syllables, the ones that are the second thing in an onset, all those others, none of those will be aspirated. Those will all be normal voiceless stops. That's because the rule doesn't apply to those guys. If you look at where the tas, pas, and kas are in words in English, you'll find that all the aspirated ones are in one place, and all the unaspirated ones are everywhere else. They are, we say, in complementary distribution. There's a pattern to where they are. You get one where the rule applies, and all the others everywhere else. Okay? That's a mark of there being a rule that changes a sound from one kind to another. Remember that. Complementary distribution. We have names for these 2 phones. We call the phone that is converted from another by a rule like this one, we call that an allophone. So an aspirated ta, an aspirated ka, and an aspirated pa are allophones of ta, ka, and pa. We call those sounds that are not related by rules of this sort phonemes. So for instance, ta and pa, there's no rule that says pa is the way you say ta somewhere. Ta and pa are phonemes. Neither one is an allophone of the other. They're independent sounds. A mark of being a phoneme is that speakers of the language in which these sounds exist will know they are different sounds. And because they know they are different sounds, because their ears are tuned to hear that difference, it will be possible to construct words that sound different on the basis of those phones. For instance, ka and ta are different phonemes in English. And that's part of why you know that skate and state are different words. You can hear that difference. What do you hear when you hear a difference between skate and state? You hear the difference in the second phone. Ka is different from ta. Everything else is the same in these words. Okay. By contrast, you will never find, like if I came to you and said, I'm going to teach you two new words. The first is, trying to think of things that aren't actual words. The first is par. Par. Okay? Par is a verb that means yawn while playing with your hair. Okay? And here's another word. Bar. Do you hear the difference? Bar. Bar. Do you hear the difference? The second one sounds like I'm French all of a sudden and trying to say the word I just learned, doesn't it? There are no two words in English that differ just because one of them has an aspirated sound where the other has an unaspirated sound. That won't happen because the unaspirated sounds just are aspirated in certain places. Do you see? So here's what we have. And finally, I need to teach you this notation. So when we've decided that some phone is a phoneme in some language, we will put that phone not in square brackets, which just indicate that we're using the IPA alphabet, but instead in slanted brackets, which will indicate not only is this an IPA symbol, but the sound being represented is a special sound in this language. It's a sound that speakers of this language know is different from others, is a phoneme. Okay? So finally, let me show you. So like for instance, here's what we're saying. This word is made up of these phonemes. That's what's in your head. That's what you memorized when you memorized this word. But to say it, first a rule comes in and tells you where the syllables are. And now, second, a rule comes in and tells you which of the voiceless stops get aspirated. And this is what comes out of your mouth. Tailspin. Not tailspin. Tailspin. More on Wednesday. Have a good weekend.